Joe Masafer and I were asked to write for it. And this time we wrote together. And we were also asked to write for an Australian sketch series. And I would go round to his place at C2 in Miramar, and we would write and fall around, lying on the floor, helpless with laughter. It was the most magical writing time. And out of it came Buck House. In the second series, John Clark and I think John Bannis, between them, began to change the scripts, and to give them credit, probably made them better. But we took it as a very personal affront and felt we had lost what little control we had and took our names off the second series, which was perhaps an overreaction, but and certainly I think people remember John Clark and Paul Holmes and Buck House much more than they remember the writers. So, I mean, John, I think, immortalised the line, "Oh, that'll be the phone," and one or two other things. That, and in a way, it was another little step towards him becoming Fred Dagg. It was a stage play, and then I offered it to television, and it was turned down on the grounds that this was not really sitcom material. And I thought, really, this is this is weird. It seemed perfect sitcom material, and radio took it up, and became Gliding On. I think Ross Jolly coined the thing. So I wrote quite a lot of radio scripts, which were successful and worked. And then I was asked again to submit it for television. I loved it because everybody knew them. Everybody knew a Jim, and everybody knew a Beryl. And Beryl's mum, who you never see, she picks up the phone, and the only time the phone goes, she says, "Hello, Mum," because that's the only person who phones her. So there's that sort of funny, sad bit. And that people knew her, knew Beryl's mum, and she lived in Stokes Valley, and so on and so on. And Hugh, the immigrant. And in those days, it was extremely hard not to be a public servant. That people, that if you were in the airlines or hospitals or teaching, you were a public servant. So everybody knew the bureaucratic requirements and the paperwork and the signing on in the morning and the signing off and all those sorts of things. It was helped by the fact, again, at one channel and everybody, you had a monopoly. And of course, the next day, as of all programs, then it was the water cooler conversation, morning tea conversation. Did you see last night? You don't get that now because the chances are nobody did, unless it's All Blacks or something. Well, I'd had for quite a long time, and it started off as a radio play, the idea of a dinner party that nobody wanted to be at. That was the germ that was with me for quite a long time. In fact, even before I wrote Glide Time. The social pressure that people say, "Oh, we owe the so-and-sos of dinner," and they are, and the people when they arrived, they didn't really want to come. But so that was the genesis. One of the things that was intriguing for it was the time structure, that the opening scene is the last day of term and there's going to be a dinner party. And then you go back several weeks and you inch your way forward, and then you come back to the present day and then go back slowly. So the two time strands are coming to join up together in the final scene, which was devilish difficult to write, but nevertheless that's what I decided to do, and it worked. It was quite a little puzzle for the audience, but it paid off very well. Why did I not write the film? Because I was stupid, really. I didn't really realise the implications of what getting a screen credit meant. And I was in the middle of writing another play, and I said, "Oh, no, I'm too busy," which was a shame. But Keith did a very good job, and I did contribute some things to the script, but not enough to get a credit. So that was a bad mistake, really. Again, I'm not knocking Keith, but it was a chance I had that I missed out on. And I've never cracked it since. I've written a screenplay that wasn't made for a British company and would like to have done so, but I've never made it. The great breakthrough was that it was, I think, recorded on the Monday and it was screened on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and it was the first one came out after a mayoral election, which had happened on the Saturday. On Tuesday, on air, we were making fun of that result, and people couldn't believe the turnaround. My God, this really is topical, And they would throw in the extra, topical lines on the day of shooting. So it was great. I mean, it was It was sharp and funny and dead the next week. It was that topical. Tony Holden gathered a great team together of writers, and on the Friday, the Friday, he gathered a whole lot of people, as well as the writers, who were up to date with political comments and observations, and we had a wonderful day batting ideas around and falling around laughing. And then towards the end of the day, the fun wore off, and then we were allocated a third each of the script, roughly. Tom Scott, James Griffin, and I. And Saturday we sat down and wrote our bits, and I think we had roughly 12 minutes each to write. Inevitably, it meant we each wrote at least 15 or 16 minutes, which meant on the Sunday, inevitably, there were huge fights as to, you know, actually people arguing about what is funny is a deadly serious game, and it has no logic or anything like that, but you go into bat for your lines. And James Griffin, who had the unenviable and very difficult job of marrying the three scripts together, if you can marry three things together. But Tom and I would be sitting in the other room seething as the pages came out, whining and moaning and screaming, you know, where's my line? That's not funny. He's added in, but you know, he's... But if it wasn't for him, of course, it would hardly have managed. So, but it was a magic time, really. About 2 weeks before Christmas, the phone went and said, would I like to go to Uganda in early January? And I said, no, I don't think so. To see the gorillas? No, I don't think so. My wife and my daughter said, you must go. Every instinct was saying, don't do it. You know. So I thought, oh, you know, which will I regret more, going or not going? So I did go, and I found it extremely hard work, though as much as possible I tried not to show that on screen. I made a vow to myself. I knew it was a reality show. I knew the whole point was sometime I should be blubbing in some awful toilet somewhere and whining and so on. So I thought I won't do that. I try not to, but and I think I was the oldest person at that stage to have gone on it, and I was never asked any medical questions. I thought it was a bit weird. And the crew looked after me well. You know, I mean, some of the accommodation was pretty awful, but sometimes they were in awful accommodation. I was in the good stuff. But so I found it very hard, and the fact that we were working very long hours. To give you an example, I think for a 40-minute program, we shot something like 40 hours. Eventually, I said to them, "Look, you're working me too hard, but I tell you what, I'll give you $10,000 if I can go home now." I said, "No, I've changed my mind. I'll make it 15,000." And I was only half joking, you know. And I'm telling you, it's an indication of the sort of depths I found. And they got me through. Some people suggested afterwards that they probably told the boatman to tip the boat over for the sake of television. And that's understandable, and I wouldn't have blamed them actually if they had done that. But I don't think they did, because they had forgotten that I was still wearing a microphone. And I had the presence of mind, as we tipped over, to cover the microphone with my hands to protect as much as possible, because I knew how much it was worth. So I'm not sure I got any thanks for that, but at least I went down with the crew, you know, with the costs in mind. I do love writing. I do love making people laugh. It's absolute magic to sit in a theatre and hearing people laugh at words you've written. And you still get a glow when you're writing something and you think, ah, that's funny, you know, this will go down well.